Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and in today's video we're going to be going over all of the new weapon perks that are available on legendary weapons within Beyond Light, and we're going to be ranking them. So here we go, let's start. These are the 9 new perks that came on the weapons. There are a variety of other new perks that went on exotic weapons, but obviously, you know, you can't get random rolls of exotics at this point in time. I mean, until that whole Hawk Moon thing goes down. But until then, we have all the 9 new perks from Beyond Light. So starting from the top, we have Reconstruction, One for All, Wellspring. We have Recombination, Redirection, Surplus. We have Chain Reaction, Dual Loader, and Thresh. So 9 new perks in total with Beyond Light. Not a whole lot, I know, but the reason why I'm making this video is so that way once we've categorized them, you're going to be able to assess and analyze whether or not a weapon you have is a god roll much easier. So starting from the top, we have Reconstruction, and Reconstruction is like auto-loading holster plus subsistence together, and why it's such a good perk. I mean, this perk is so strong, this could literally be an exotic perk. It's so good, but it's on all of the raid weapons, and very, very strong perk. The next one up is One for All, and this actually, if you shoot 3 different targets, it gives you a 35% damage buff for 10 seconds, so extremely strong. And this perk will actually be like the strongest perk for Grandmaster Nightfalls when they come back, because in the past, the problem was with Grandmasters that the red bar adds are so hefty that you're not able to kill them and get Rampage ×1 and get Rampage ×2 by the time you run out of the timer. But with One for All, you will be able to easily hit 3 different targets, get that damage buff, and then do 35% damage for 10 seconds. So this will be probably the king perk of the return of Grandmaster Nightfalls. So truly, make sure if you get any perks with One for All in it, keep it, because when those Grandmasters come back in a few weeks, you're going to want to beat them, and this perk will be honestly amazing for that. The next step is the perk Wellspring, which is kills with this weapon will generate ability energy in the respective slot. They made this perk so smart, so if you are missing your grenade, it'll give you a ton in your grenade. If you're missing your grenade in melee, it'll distribute it evenly between the two. If you're missing your grenade, melee, and your class ability, it'll give you a little bit for all 3. Very, very strong perk. I mean, if you want to be able to use tons of abilities, this is an S tier perk for sure. And the first of its kind to be an S tier perk, because most of the time S tier perks are like, for example, perks that reload your weapon or give you a ton of damage, like these 2 perks here. And all the other perks that would be up here, like auto-loading holster, rampage, kill clip, would all be S tiers. But it's so strong at giving you back ability energy that I definitely have to put it in S tier. Next up is Recombination in the A tier. This is a very strong perk. You know, you get ability kills and you get a bunch of stacks with it, but the only problem is that you only get to fire 1 shot. It does a ton of damage, that 1 shot, but you only get 1 shot. And so it's not nearly as good or as effective as the other damage boosting perks, and I definitely can't put it on the same level as One for All in my opinion. Next up we have Redirection, which also works really, really well. You clear out a bunch of enemies, like red bar health enemies, and then you, for each 5 stacks, you do increased damage to yellow health bar enemies, so you can get up to a 20 stack and then do 4 damage boosted shots to bosses or to yellow bar enemies. Very strong perk, but also situational and not nearly as strong as the other damage boosting perks. Plus, it requires you to adjust your entire playstyle around making sure that you shoot enemies in a certain order, in a certain sequence, and I just don't think that it's going to be nearly as viable or as strong as the other damage boosting perks. Next up is Surplus, which increases reload speed, stability, and handling for every fully charged ability. A very, very strong perk in and of itself. But in the Crucible, however, you don't want to save all those abilities. You want to use those abilities to win engagements. So it doesn't have the best application there. And then in PvE, you don't really need a boost to stability or handling. The reload speed is nice, though. And if you play, like I mentioned before, if you play to a certain playstyle, Surplus will do you some good in PvP or PvE for that matter. But overall, it's just nowhere near an S tier, and barely, I think, barely fits into the A tier. Next up, we have Chain Reaction, which gives elemental explosions, and this really only comes on rocket launchers and grenade launchers at this point in time. It is a very strong perk for those weapons, but both of those weapons are not very good in PvE, which is certainly where you would want a sort of Dragonfly type perk to proc. I'm essentially equating it to Dragonfly because it has similar properties. So unfortunately, it is a good perk, it's just not on the right weapons. This perk on a fusion rifle, however, though, could be insane. Next up is Dual Loader, which is reloads 2 shells at the time, but reduces your reload speed. It's almost like a catch-22 with this, like, you reload twice as fast, but also twice as slow, so it's like, it doesn't really seem to help that much. I don't know, let me know in the comment section below, have you found any useful application of Dual Loader? I personally haven't found any yet. So I had to put it into the B tier. The next one is the perk Thresh, which really hurts me. I thought that this was going to be an S tier perk. Healing combatants with this perk on generates a small amount of super energy. Unfortunately, this just does not work in the Crucible at all, though. So I had to put it into the B tier. I was almost going to put this into the C tier for that reason, because in PvE, even still, it gives such a very small amount of super energy that just doesn't seem worth it. I would be willing to bet that Bungie does put a buff on the Thresh perk soon in the future, because at this point in time, this thing is just terrible. Hopefully they don't buff it too much, though, because this thing would be absolutely broken inside PvP. Could you imagine a Dire Promise that rolls with Thresh on it? That would be disgusting. Of all the Beyond Light perks, I didn't put any in the C tier category. They only brought 9 perks overall, and the ones that they brought do have some useful applications. There was no just absolutely trash tier perk that deserved to be in the C tier category. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with where I've ranked all of these perks? I hope this helps you in your efforts to farm for God rolled weapons within the game. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.